Well, you gotta start somewhere.
Well, this is a bit strange, isn't it? Starting off my YouTube career with the same game that made James Rolfe, aka the video game nerd, a success. I figured there was no better game to talk about than this one. To cut straight to the point for a second, I like Simon's Quest. A lot. Of course, this in itself is probably enough to stir up a bunch of hate in the comments section. Oh well, I don't really care. Let's be honest, pretty much everybody hates this game for one reason or another. Most claim this one to be the worst game in the Castlevania series. Personally, I thought Lords of Shadow 2 was worse, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I start talking about Castlevania 2, I figured I'd talk about the original first. Man, this game was great, and I think everybody can agree with that. It hasn't aged as well as other games on the NES, and it's also, well, hard, but it still remains a classic among the NES library. When it was time to make the sequel, Konami went the way of Zelda 2 and Mario 2, and completely changed the formula which made the first game great. Castlevania 2 wasn't a linear action platformer, but rather a non-linear game with RPG elements. Okay, that's fine. For me anyway. But for everyone else, however, different equals bad. Which would also explain why so many people love each and every single Call of Duty game.
Oh, let's see. What do we have here? Okay, so we have our game. Okay, good. People like it. That's great. Now we have a cash cow in our hand. Now let's see. Let's change this one texture over here a little bit. Okay, let's modify this gun. All right, okay. We'll keep the campaign the same, but we'll change the plot a little bit. All right, great. We'll give the game a different subtitle. All right, bam, we got a new game.
One of the most widely criticized parts of the game is not knowing where to go. That's a stupid complaint in itself, considering the fact that this is a non-linear game, and you're not going to know where to go at first. Besides, if you keep going to the right, you'll eventually make it to the first dungeon. Dungeon? Temple? Mansion? No, whatever. The original Metroid was much worse than this, and I don't ever hear anybody complaining about it. However, I'm not going to sit here and try to defend the certain instances where you have to have a certain crystal and kneel at a certain location, but in my opinion, that's about as cryptic as it gets. It's not like any of the townspeople are going to help you at all. In fact, talking to them is just a waste of time. I don't know if it's a translation error from the Japanese version, or just an excuse to sell more guides like Nintendo Power, but everything that anybody has to say is just cryptic garbage. I really don't think there's any shame in using a guide. You almost need it if you don't know anything about this game. I'll admit, Castlevania 2 has a lot of flaws, but it also has a lot of fun elements, which to me make it a very enjoyable experience. I firmly enjoy exploring the world, traveling to each mansion, killing monsters, collecting hearts. Oh, wait, let's talk about that for a second. Hearts act as your currency for the game. There are two major problems on how this game handles its currency. First of all, items are really expensive if you don't feel like going out of your way to grind for hearts. This wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for the second issue. When you die, you respawn right where you left off. Okay, that's fine. When you get a game over, you still respawn where you left off. However, you lose all of your hearts. This has made me rage so many times that I could just. I understand that there needs to be a punishment for dying, but this wasn't the way to do it. Instead of losing all of your hearts, the player should go back to the previous town he was at, or at the beginning of the current dungeon he is in, when he gets the game over. Personally, I believe a simple change like this would improve the game enormously. Due to the many flaws this game has, I sometimes wonder why I love it so much. Perhaps it's because I grew up with this game on the Wii's Virtual Console. Is it nostalgia? I don't know. Maybe more like Stockholm Syndrome. I guess I've just come to accept all the problems that come with this game over the many years that I've played it. Hate it or not, you have to admit that this game has a really good soundtrack. Konami must have learned that not everybody liked the changes that Castlevania 2 brought to the series. So for the threequel, Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, they brought back the formula from the first game. It's really a shame that Castlevania 2 doesn't get more appreciation. It has gone on to influence later games in the series like Symphony of the Night. The day and night cycle was also used in other games like Ocarina of Time. Castlevania 2 was also one of the first games to have multiple endings. So how does the game hold up in 2017? Well, it's aged rather poorly, but I think it's still an enjoyable experience. I recommend playing it. Who knows, maybe you'll have as much fun as I did. Just make sure you do a lot of research on this game so you avoid a lot of the crap that comes with it.